Well, my time budget is 10 minutes, so let me use it very efficient and effective and make you a little bit more familiar with the newest edition of the book. Why, again, a newest edition? Well, my experience is that after roughly 4 years, you can give every book about EU and how to make a difference at the EU level or to influence it, you can give it as away to your next friend coming into your room because it is outdated. So rapidly is the change at the EU level and in the field of public affairs, to put it that way. And therefore, that is my personal ambition, I want to give you the most fresh information, the evidence-based information you might find if you, like me, spend every day on reading about PA at the EU level or listening to the colleagues, the practitioners in PA, their experiences, their new findings, and etc. I like to make use of my, at the moment, 9 minutes left to answer the questions you didn't pose so far. First of all, why that title, The Art of Lobbying? Well, lobbying everybody can, every kid at your home, everybody in the street. But that sort of lobbying, old-fashioned, walking around, drinking a cup of coffee, disturbing other people, is not effective and very inefficient. It is indeed, as Peter de Gooijer already mentioned, like in diplomacy, for 85% to compare with the thinking of a chess player. And for only 50% of your time you make some moves with the pieces, you go around for shopping or checking information or whatever. My focus is on the art of lobbying, and the art is similar to public affairs in its best quality. And like in diplomacy, but there are many differences, but there are also similarities between diplomacy and public affairs. I refer to that in the book. One common element is that we have to make a distinction in both fields between the good diplomats and the many so amateurish-like diplomats. Quality makes the real difference, and that is the same for the field of public affairs. And the guess is, a rough guess, that if you take all the so-called people calling themselves lobbyists, public affairs official, all together, 100%, then the Premier League here at the EU level is at the most 10%. Then you can find the real all-rounders, who are quite studious, who make before that very specific ambitions, targets, and always remain prudent. Always. Don't want to irritate others, don't want to receive any boomerang at all. Therefore, it is quite interesting the role of critical people regarding the field of public affairs, like the journalists, the NGO groups, again, lobbying against lobby groups. A quite interesting paradox, like lobby control, CEO, etc., etc. And also the academics like me, who don't take sides but want to know how it really works, happens, and then spreads the information. And that may sometimes alarm you, but anyhow make you more aware of the pitfalls and the risks of trying to make a difference at the EU level. That sort of social criticism I like, because at the end it is a main contributor to improvement of the quality of what the guys here try to do. And it improves also the quality of the EU itself. And of course, I come back to that point, EU democracy. Now, another question you might have in your mind, that number of the quantity. How many lobbyists are there? You heard about the 15,000. That is a magical number. I make a confession finally in the new book. Excuse me, apologize. I made that number once at the first EP hearings, 1994, the first one on lobbying. Afterwards, after the hearings, a group of journalists came to me and posed me that question. And I could only say, well, at the European Public Affairs Directory of that time, there are roughly 3,000 organized interest groups at the EU level here in Brussels, and I guess that roughly their staff is an average 5 people. Times 3,000, final number is 15,000. And that is a magic number. It is purely nonsense, but it depends, because it depends on the definition of a lobbyist. And also, at the moment the numbers are in all 3 sources, the ETI and the 2 directories, much higher. But not included in all those sources are, for example, the interest groups, the magnitude of interest groups that promote their interests through European federations only or through consultancies only. And also hardly included, at least not in the ETI, are the interest groups from central governments. They are free from registration, exempted. And I see in my practice, in my observations, no real difference between interest groups from central government, including permanent representations, and, for example, from big NGOs or companies or decentralized governments. Another question is about quality. I find that more important question than, thank you for the question, than about quality. Quality. Public affairs is one of the few professions which is a totally free sports, without formalized requirements, without formalized trainings, without formalized hallmarks. Everybody can say, I'm a PA official. Everybody, free, totally free sports. And like in every free sports, compare it with football, which is a little bit formalized, most of the guys are amateurish, are amateurs. So simple it is. The Premier League in the free sports is always small, small, small. But thanks to all the countless numbers of interest groups and people who try to make a difference, there is an extreme high competition at the EU level, much higher than at the level of any national capital. I made last year some comparisons in Berlin when a Germanized version of the book came out. If there is in Berlin around any dossier roughly 30, 40 different interest groups competing, then at the EU level you can find for that same type of dossier almost 8, 9 times more interest groups. And that gives a strong social control regarding interest group behavior over here. First of all, the main effect of every interest group regarding a dossier is that their input neutralizes the input from their competitor. And that is a win for the officials that have to take the final decision. The neutralization effect. And secondly, all the interest groups become much more aware of the risks of going to the ridge of a chance. They become more and more prudent, because if you go too far, so to say, then sooner or later, and often more soon than later, you are becoming scandalized, and then you get a boomerang returned. So the prudency, that is increasing. Perfect. Another last question that may interest you, and all what I have said and all what I have prepared before, and you can find when you leave the place over here later on, is the one about public affairs, lobbying and democracy at the EU level. The citizens' concern at the moment, particularly after the 2007 various crises, and I've spent many sections on that, and the effects on interest group behavior and the institutions. And the main point, the main observation is that until 2007, according to the more reliable statistics, the largest part of EU citizens was so-called positively indifferent. Let the national politicians do it. Positively indifferent. And indifference was for many years called a problem of citizenship and democracy. That problem we have solved. At the moment, 45% of the citizens Europe-wide is more or less negatively engaged. But engaged, that is the win. About 5% is positively engaged, and the remainder, 40%, is let us wait and see. Maybe positive, maybe negative in the near future. We want to make up our mind. And now the new wave especially from the academic side, the young scholars, all the countries, very interesting, is that the field of comparing the democracy of European countries in regard to EU. And the outcome, and also confirmed last year in the last report from Transparency International, is that in spite of all the shortcomings of democracy at the EU level, the summary value of democracy at the EU level is higher on a scale of 10.7 than at any national level. And the country, the city that comes closest to Brussels is Berlin, the German capital. The main explanations are Brussels is much more, particularly the Commission and the Parliament, much more transparent, much more accessible than the national institutions. And in the world of interest groups, there is much more competition among the interest groups. They limit each other's reach, and the social control at the EU level is also among interest groups much more strong than in the national capitals. So, I have some, let me stop over here, because all the remaining questions are up to you. And I give the word to Peter.